Hi, I've made a series of tools for myself that I use on a daily basis, and I'm throwing them into the developers Tyler scripts folder for every project from now on, so that you guys can use them too if you find any of them useful at all. I find them useful, so hopefully maybe something in here might be useful for you guys. I just wanted to make a little video showcasing them and walking through them a little bit. The main tool that I use is called main tool. Main tool can do a series of things. The most obvious thing you can probably see now is this frame number. For some reason this stopped working for me. So actually yesterday I added this so it grabs the frame from the master sequence. And this is really useful for your movie previews to know like, hey, like which frame do I need to adjust this to line up on this frame, you know, that kind of thing. It just stopped working, so we're adding this. It just grabs the current frame number and puts it into the text. And the button actually doesn't do anything. The next thing is these movie tools, like all these movie tools here. I'm not sure how you guys do your movies. I know you guys have presets for MP4 exporter and things like that. I haven't played around with them enough to know if you guys have a tool that auto sets up frame ranges for you. The way I do it is, let me prep this movie really quick. I have custom start frame and custom end frame, and I put the master sequence in instead of, I find that it's definitely easier to code, but my main thing is not being able to set the frame ranges. Like, yes, you can do this manually. This is not very fun. So I try to avoid going inside of here at all costs. That's why I built these sets of tools. So first tool that I used to use a lot was just movie. So what it does, let me clear this. So if you don't have anything set up in your movie render queue, as I currently don't, you get into the shot, not the master sequence, but the shot itself, and you just click movie. It does a series of things. You can see it immediately launches the movie render queue. And what it does is it sets up your folder according to the pipeline that I'll walk you guys through later, and it puts in the right frame ranges for this particular shot, and then immediately executes the movie render queue to start going. We'll just render out a few frames because I just want to make sure you guys can see it working. And I'm going to exit out. And then you can see what happens. It actually will open up that directory for you. So once it's done, it opens up this directory. And then, so that's, I'm going to cut real time off so it doesn't interfere. You can see what it does. It puts the shot number into the job. It puts this output path here, which is really useful for like pipeline related stuff. It puts it in here, as you can see, and then it sets the really important part is it sets the custom frame range and custom end frame according to the correct master sequence frame numbers for that particular shot. So that's really important. Again, if you guys have a tool that sets up the frame ranges for me, that'd be great, but this is how I ended up having to do it. So you can see that it worked even without having anything in here. So it sets up everything for you. Okay, so that's prep movie and movie. So prep movie will just prep this section without actually executing the movie preview, and movie will do everything for you. But the problem with these two tools is that it doesn't set up frame ranges. Like, you can't set up custom frame ranges, and that's also what I need a lot of. Now, this movie setup is here. If you just right click run editor utility widget, and you can just dock it as well. And the way this works is very similar, except it allows you to do a series of things additionally to, instead of just rendering out the movie, you can set up the shot and it puts in the correct frame numbers. But the really nice thing is that you can slide these and edit the frame number that you need. It's better to type it in. So you can do that, and you can also add anti-aliasing capabilities, and you can turn on override anti-aliasing, set to none, and it's got all the official names of the anti-aliasing in here. So you can see it sets the menu option according to what you have in the tool. So setup shot will set up the current shot. If you can see, if I go in here and I say, and I go into here and I say set up shot in here, you can see it grabs the start frame and end frame from this particular sequence. See 744, and well, the real end frame is 744, so that's what it's grabbing. So you can also version up if you need to. Now, when you export out this movie, it'll version up automatically. So if I say export movie, as soon as I do that, it'll actually version this up to 64 after it completes exporting the movie for you. So the one thing I know you guys use is presets. I don't currently have the capability of doing presets, but I'm sure I can add that if you guys will find this useful enough. There we go. And then it opens up my correct folder and everything else. And then you can see it actually versioned up because it was 63. This way you don't ever have to go back into this tool set. You can just stay right here in the tool, modify your stuff, and just export it out. Adjust your frame numbers accordingly, export it out. So that's the movie tool. The next tool that I use very often is the save level sequence and the reload level sequence. The save level sequence is something I added relatively recently. The reload I've had for a while. And basically what it does is when you make a change, you can see the star here obviously. And typically what you'll have to do is go into here, right click, go to asset actions, and then reload. But the problem is it gets rid of your sequencer. So then you have to reopen up the master sequence, then reopen up this sequence, then find your frame number. So reload will it'll literally do all that for you. So you hit yes, reload. It'll reload the asset, hop into master sequence, hop into this sequence, and then remember your frame number, and remember if you were using the camera cut, it'll do all that for you. You don't have to hop all around. So that's really nice. And then save will just do that. It'll save this dirty level sequence. Instead of having to go here and then hitting save, control S'ing, or hitting this and then, oh no, accidentally saving over another sequence, you can just hit this and it'll save this sequence as is. So one click instead of two, very simple script. So the next tool that's really important is that I use really often is the bake transforms. So this is V4 version 2, okay, this guy. So if I want to bake this guy out, typically you'd have to click on the camera, go here, go bake transform, set the correct frame range, because this doesn't even set the correct frame range right off. So you have to set the correct frame range, then say all frames, and hit OK. It's really annoying. So I just click this. You say bake transforms on the selected item here, and it does just that. It bakes out the transforms. So now all the transforms are baked to the correct frame range. So that's what that does. Now we did that here, bake transforms on this shot sequence. Now if I were to be inside of my effects sequence, where is it? Then I would use this bake transform effects, or if any subsequence. And the reason for that is because subsequences frame ranges are treated differently than shot sequences. So if you're one level deeper, you need to click this button. If you're on the shot level, then you need to click this button. Unfortunately, the way that Unreal's made the code for this, it's not straightforward at all to get the correct frame run numbers, and it depends on if you're in a subsequence or not. So that's why there's two different tools. So this is a good way to show multiple tools. So first I'm gonna conform this to the range so that the sequence is the correct frame number in this sequence. So there's a few tools here that I use pretty often. So to get the best animations out for effects, the best workflow is to click on the rig, right click, create a linked animation sequence, and then bake that newly created animation sequence out as an FBX. But when you have 20 characters like this, that takes a long time to do it for each one. So I built a tool that will really automate this process. There's actually two tools that I use in conjunction. So let's select all the actors that we want to run this by. I'm gonna cut real time on really quick, just so I can, and I'm going to cut it back off so it's faster to move in my viewport. Let's say we want to export out all these characters. The way you can do this, I have a store selected actors in sequence. So this will create a variable called actors as an array inside of this editor utility widget. So if I click that, now let's say I want to select all the rig components. So this is one rig component, but I don't want to sit here and select every rig component from everything. That would take all day. So once we've stored that actors in sequence, we can just select one of the components and say select similar components. And now all those components are now selected. The next part that I do is I set a path for where these animation sequences are going to go. So similar to how you said create linked animation sequence, it requests a path to where it should go. So let's make a path to, this is shot, I think this is shot 40. So I'm gonna go to shot 40. And we're just gonna copy this path
put it in here. And then what I have on my rig selected, so I just hit export animation sequence. So again, instead of one by one doing this, I can just click this once and it does a series of things. The main thing that it does is loops through all the components, exports out an animation sequence for each one, creates an asset for it, and then it's going to do an additional step where it'll actually export out the FBX, each FBX that I need for each animation sequence, labeled accordingly to both the component and the blueprint. So this is exceedingly useful for me when I'm doing cost simulations or effects when I need all these characters exported. Now, of course, I'm exporting out like 20 characters right now, so it is going to take a little bit of time, definitely more than usual. We'll just give it a moment. And there we go. All the animation sequences are exported, and now it's asking me about FBX options. So I typically just turn off everything except for export preview mesh and export local time. Both those are pretty important. And then I'll just say export all. So what's going to happen is when I click this, it's already exported all the animation sequences, and all those assets are in my code just waiting to be exported. And when I click that, it'll automate the exporting FBX process for me, so that when I go into Houdini and I load in these FBXs, they're all there. So right now you can see it's creating this game folder, and all those animations are going into here. But when the code is finished, it's going to delete this game folder because I don't like this game folder structure. It makes it difficult for me to work with. So once all these exports are finished, it's going to get rid of this game folder and just put it inside this animation folder here. And these are all the exports that I've done. So it's just going to overwrite those if they're already there. And that's fine because typically that's how I work anyway. Okay, so all those exports are finished, and you don't have to have real time turned on in order to do this. So add components is really useful. So let's say we have all these blueprints selected here, and we want to add all the components that are rigged. So let's just select this one for now. And this is the only component you have, this rig. And instead of one by one adding all these components to every actor, that would take a lot of time. So let's make this process a lot faster. So I'm just going to select most of these characters, and I'm going to put in a name for the component. I'm going to say rig here. I'm going to cut off real time because it's interfering with my screen recording. And then I'm going to say add components, and you can see immediately it adds all the rig component. Anything that contains this word will be added. This is really useful if you have a blueprint with a bunch of lights, say, and you want to add all those components. You can just type in what it contains and it'll add it to all the selected actors. So this is really useful. So the next tool is image sequence create. So this one actually just launches another editor utility widget, and what this is for creating media plate. So if you go to here and you type in media, it will create an image media source linked to the path that you're providing. It'll create a media player asset and a media texture asset, and it'll link all of them together. So that's really useful. So this tool just takes care of all that for you. So you just paste in a path. I already have a path here in my clipboard, so I'm just going to paste that path here. You give it a title. Let's call it Canon Render, and you hit create, and it's going to go through and create 3 assets like I discussed, and then it's going to save them accordingly. So there it is. We have all 3 guys, and it put in the correct path. It sets the correct frame range to 30 frames per second, and this media player, it gets hooked into the media source, and then the media texture gets hooked into the video. And oh, it actually loaded this time. Yay, I'm glad. That's right, I did end up figuring out how to fix that because before it wasn't loading. Now it's correctly loaded. And then you can just drag this media texture onto something and it'll add that as a material. So that's it, that's that tool. So next tool that I don't use super often, especially with the Ray Grid tool that I made, but there's a selected actors to high-res static mesh, and what that does is essentially, I can actually walk you through it, it's pretty straightforward. Basically, it gets the selected actors, it casts it to a static mesh actor, and it gets the static mesh actual assets and adds a unique array to that. And essentially it just adjusts the nanite settings for each static mesh according to this. So the fallback percentage triangles is made 0.2, and then we are setting the nanite settings for each static mesh inside of here. So basically it's just gonna change the fallback target. So in the nanite settings, it's changing the fallback target to percent triangles, and the fallback percent triangles is 0.2. And that's all it's going to do. It's just going to change the fallback target from relative error to percent triangles. And then from 100, it's, if you say 0.2 here, that's 20%. So it's going to be 20. So it's going to set, well, not 19.9, it's going to actually set it to 20. So and then it's going to apply the changes. That's all it's doing, but it's doing it for every single static mesh that you select. So in this case, it's terrain 2. So if you have a bunch of static mesh actors, Control Alt drag, it'll work really well. So in this case it's just these two, but if you had multiple, it would do it to all of them. So that's really useful. It's just avoiding you having to do this manually, find all of them manually and that kind of thing. Now I wanted to talk a little bit about my pipeline and how I have it set up. So I have a base folder that everything kind of goes to, where my animations, my movies, and all that kind of stuff go to. And I have try to make it configurable for you guys, for your pipeline. So, because everyone is working on their own machine with their own pipeline, and my pipeline is definitely not the best, or it's just what I work with, but I wanted to make it configurable in case you guys do use my tools. So especially for like where the movies go, like these two tools, and then the movie tool I showed earlier, and then the export animation sequence is very useful. So essentially I'm going to show you kind of how it's actually working. So this, essentially the way I was thinking about doing this was I needed to make sure that everyone could configure it globally for every project on their machine only once, and then it would work from then on. All these scripts will work for every project, everything. So it is a little bit of a pain, but it's okay. You only have to do it once. So edit system, and then I go over to advanced, and I go to environment variables. I scroll all the way down to system environment variables. There's this Unreal Path config. So this is the environment variable that I'm configuring for my own stuff. And what you can do is actually double click and say browse directory, and you can point to this directory here. Or you can just format it like this, where it's backslash and then there's no ending folder. That's important. So just click OK. Once you configure this, just make a new variable name, new variable value, call it exactly this, and then OK. Unfortunately, you do have to restart your machine. That's the only way I can get it working on my own machine. So I'm pretty sure you guys will unfortunately have to restart your machine. I know it's a pain, but that's the only way I can get it to work. I'm sorry. So once the way it's working is this, I think it's a lot easier just to show you how the code is working. So this path config controls all the paths for all the tools. So every single one of the tools references this particular file and uses it to configure the paths. This way it makes it really easy for me to just edit this one file, and all the changes get propagated to all the other tools. So the way it works is it's getting this environment variable here. And what this means is it's just getting that Unreal Path config as an environment variable in Python. And then this is just the default. So what this means is if it can get anything, great. If not, then grab this. Then that's all that means. Don't worry about these two functions. So here's what I wanted to show you. So main path is what's referenced in all the other tools. So Unreal Pipeline path is this environment variable that you're going to set up on your machine. Main project, and shot. So the way it works is the main project is typically going to be Exodus for us. Project is going to be the particular project you're working on, and then shot is just that, the shot. So, it might be like project might be Final Battle 2, and then the shot might be, 04. So that's kind of how this is working. So what happens is this string gets formatted to whatever your base is that you're going to configure. The main project, which is typically Exodus, project, which is, Final Battle 2, and then the actual shot number. So that's how this is going to work. So in my case, all my stuff gets put into here. This is before, some of these are definitely before I had the pipeline, but these two here are within pipeline. So these other ones are outside of pipeline, like when I first started, and then this is after I started like setting up the pipeline. So you'll see all these are all the projects that I'm working on, and some of them are different spellings because I created them before the tool did anything with them. So they're like extra because it's grabbing the true project name. So here, this is all like the subsequences stuff that I've created and edited. And this is all stuff generated from the tool. This is kind of how my pipeline works. And so you can see like this is where the movie stuff gets created. And here's all the images. And same for, this is just like where I store my hip files. And so yeah, so what's going to change for you is really just going to be this path. So you're going to configure this path on your environment variable, and then everything else is just going to populate. So the movies are going to populate, your animations are going to populate inside of this main folder, and everything else is taken care of by the tools. Everything after that point is taken care of by the tool itself. So yeah. So if you guys have any other ideas for other tools, let me know. And in my free time, I'll try to help out if I can. I'd love to chip in where I can. And if you guys have any tools too, please do share or let me know. Let's get the conversation going about this stuff. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.